We have been learning about frogs and toads, and I wanted to show you a little more closely the life cycle of a frog. So here we have an adult female frog, and so in the spring she's going to lay her eggs in the water. Frogs have to lay their eggs in the water. They are not land dwelling. So they have two lives. They're amphibians. Maybe you've heard of an amphibious vehicle. It can go on the land and in the water. Amphibians do that. So the adult frog will go in the pond. After mating, she'll lay her eggs, thousands and thousands of them, in the water. And she lays them in clumps, like so. The little dots are the little baby frogs in there, the little eggs. And then the blobs of jelly are sticking them together, clumping them in a group, and providing protection for the little eggs. We know they lay thousands of eggs. Most of them end up as food for other creatures. But enough survive to continue the species. So the frogs are laid, the eggs are laid in the water. We call that frog spawn. That happens in the springtime. Depending on the species of frog, it can take anywhere from 2 or 3 days to a few weeks. The eggs will hatch. When they hatch, we have the little tadpole. So here we see the little tadpole. Look how long his tail is. He wouldn't really be able to function on the land anyway, would he? He has no legs yet. So he just swims around in the water. He attaches to the pondweed when he's first hatched. He eats, he grows. Eventually he goes away swimming. Then we see here hind legs. So as the little tadpole is getting bigger, we can see his mouth is getting bigger, his eyes are getting bigger, his whole body is changing. And he has hind legs, back legs. His tail is getting shorter and thicker. So he'll continue to grow, swim around in the pond. The next thing that happens are these front legs. So now he has all 4 legs. See that there? His body is getting much bigger and thicker. His mouth continues to grow. His tail continues to shrink. At this point, he can hop around on the land. He doesn't have to stay in the water any longer. He can hop around and start exploring his new world as a land-dwelling creature versus a water-dwelling tadpole. Eventually, the tail will just shrink away, and he'll be a little froglet. So the little froglet will grow and eat and live and have his little life, visiting the water, trying to keep his skin moist, blending in with his surroundings, trying to stay safe from predators. And that frog will grow up and become an adult frog. And then in the spring, after mating, the female will lay her eggs, her frog spawn, and they will hatch into little tadpoles that will attach to pondweed in the beginning, and then eventually they'll start swimming around. And then they'll grow their back legs, the tail will get shorter and the body will change, and they'll continue swimming around and feeding in the water until they grow their front legs. And now when they have all their 4 legs and their body starts to look more like a frog, their tail is still there, but it is shrinking. When it's a little froglet with its legs, now it's ready to come out and hop around and play around on the land and then visit the pond for a little swim whenever it needs to. It needs to keep its skin moist. And then finally the little froglet grows up, and the female will lay her eggs in the spring, and this goes round and around. It happens over and over, and we call this a life cycle. So this is the life cycle of the frog. The frog undergoes metamorphosis. Metamorphosis. It means it undergoes a great change. Metamorphosis. It undergoes a great change. The baby eggs look nothing like the mom. When they hatch, they look nothing like the mom. Human babies look just like humans, but smaller. But they look completely different. This creature lives on the land. Yes, they stay near the water and they keep their skin moist, but they can live on the land. They can't stay underwater too long. They would drown. They don't breathe under the water like that, like we do, unless they're hibernating when they get oxygen through their skin. But for the most part, they're living on the land and these are living in the water. And these have to swim and these hop. So they don't look like each other. They undergo a great change called metamorphosis. Maybe you would like, let me put these to the side, maybe you would like to make some cards or make some pictures. I drew some pictures of some frogs. So here's an adult frog. His tongue is there. You might want to make your tongue a little longer. Mine's a little short. And maybe you can draw your frog catching a bug or something. And you can look and see what kind of frog you would like to draw. Maybe you can do some research. So we have an adult frog. I made a picture of some frog spawn. And you can make many more. I just did this in the water. So we have our adult frog, our frog spawn. Then we have this picture. Now this is pondweed. It's hanging down in the pond. And you can see the tadpole here, his tail. You can see his feathery gills. Do you see them there? And he's just hatched and he's kind of hanging on the pondweed, eating and staying safe. While he's there, his mouth will get a little bigger and his eyes, his feathery gills that you see there, they will eventually change. They will become internal. He will eventually grow lungs. And when that happens, he'll have to swim up to the top, or she'll have to swim up to the top to get some air. But right now, this little tadpole has his or her feathery gills, and she's hanging on the pondweed there. Do you see her? She is underwater. This is blue. I'm not sure you can tell that. I'll lay that one down there. Our next stage shows the hind legs have grown, the tail has got shorter, and the body has got much bigger. And you see the feathery gills are gone. Her body has got much bigger too. She's still underwater, but she can swim up to the top now because she has no gills. She has to swim up to the top to breathe. So she has some little nostrils there for breathing. And I'm just laying these in a little circle here. And the last picture I drew shows a little froglet. He's come out of the water and he's standing on a rock or on the ground here. And I'm showing that he has his 4 legs, his mouth and his little nose, his eyes, his tail is getting shorter and his body is getting big and fat and more froggy looking. So she'll keep growing and growing, and eventually we're back to the beginning again, where the female will lay her eggs in the water, and here they are, and then they'll grow and hatch into little tadpoles with feathery gills who attach to the pondweed. Then they become much more agile, swimming around in the water with the little back legs, and the body changes. And then they become little froglets who grow up, and in the spring they lay eggs, and it happens all over again. So that's the life cycle of the frog. So try and come up with some ideas for some work to do with this. Maybe draw your own pictures, or maybe make the stages out of clay. Do something creative, and maybe go look for frogs or research different types. See what you can learn about frogs. Maybe you can write a frog song or a frog poem or a story about frogs or something. But come up with some good ideas. Okay, bye-bye.